What's going on, everyone? It's Justin here, and today I've got a video of a smartphone that I feel like is a great value for 2021. So it's got the top-end specs of a Snapdragon 888 processor. It has 5G support, Wi-Fi 6, fast charging, a great AMOLED display that has a full 100% coverage, but also just like look at it. It's got this vegan leather finish that comes in 3 different colors, and the yellow one right here specifically is one that I feel like is super unique. And it's been a material that we've seen on some smartphones lately, and has seemingly been a very popular option as well. So this right here is the RealMe GT 5G smartphone, and huge thanks to RealMe for sponsoring this video. And one of the most popular sector of smartphones in the past few years have been ones that have been deemed as flagship killers. So phones that have a lot of the great specs, a really nice, simple but effective software experience, a multiple camera setup, and great design as well as build quality that comes in at a very competitive price point while giving you very little compromise compared to flagship options that in a lot of cases could cost double, if not more, than what this phone comes in at. If you guys would like to win a RealMe GT 5G smartphone, just make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like on this video, and also leave a comment down below with your Instagram username and follow me over on Instagram, and I'll be picking a winner in 2 weeks. So just beginning with the unboxing here, you can probably see the phone looks really nice. The packaging and everything is a great presentation experience. And as you open it up, you'll have the smartphone itself, a case that is really nice that a lot of Chinese manufacturers include to protect it out of the box, as well as a screen protector pre-installed. And below that, you also have your 65-watt fast charger that is all included. And in addition to that, in our kit, we also got a 50-watt slim fast charger, which is super small and compact and still charges very quickly, a really nice cable, and we also have the RealMe Buds Air 2, which is the wireless earbuds in a nice glossy black finish. One of the big selling features of this phone is its cooling technology, so there's also a bit of a demonstration here where if you put a lighter next to it, it will actually change color, showing its cooling capabilities, which makes it stay 50% cooler. And it also allows the CPU to reach 15% higher temperatures, so a faster clock speed. So if you really want to do like intensive tasks when it comes to graphics, this phone is able to do that without overheating. So I think just talking about the design, this is probably my favorite feature of this phone. And when I first saw other creators checking this out in the yellow finish, I thought it was super nice. And as someone who loves racing, this does remind me of like the racing feel in like this yellow finish, the premium material and the seat material. But what I also like about it is the black strip that runs down the middle with the camera, just so it has a bit of a uniform two-tone contrast to it. And if you look closely at like the strip that goes down, there's also a nice circular texture as well. And I feel like the detail and everything is really nice. The phone itself also has like metal edges, and with a weight of around 186 grams, it feels very comfortable in the hand and I think is a really good size. So obviously only time will tell in terms of the durability of the smartphone, but I feel like just off of like the finish alone and the way it feels, leather is quickly becoming one of my favorite material choices. And a lot of times when I use a case on the smartphone, I either choose like a matte silicone or a leather finish. And just by having it on the smartphone itself, you get to really enjoy the design for what it is with a great material finish. On the front, you also have a 92% screen to body ratio. So the 6.4-inch panel doesn't actually feel too big in terms of the form factor. And with a hole punch camera right here and a fingerprint sensor that is built in the screen, it really does maximize the amount of screen real estate that it uses up. On paper, this is a full HD plus display with a 100% DCI-P3 color gamut. And just from the way the screen looks, I know like specs are one thing, it does have the characteristics of good contrast, sharpness, and also a decent amount of vibrance, but not too much. That makes it great for multimedia and also editing photos and doing creative stuff. Personally, I've tried a ton of smartphones out there, and for some of them, you might have like a great multimedia experience, whereas others are better in terms of accurate colors, and I would say that this screen does fall right in the middle. It has a 120 Hz refresh rate and a touch sampling rate of 360 Hz, so the phone itself just feels super fast, it looks fast, and obviously paired with the Snapdragon 888 processor, it is the top end at the moment, and all that just really comes together. And with a fast refresh rate and a Full HD Plus resolution as opposed to Quad HD, the battery life is also not as severely affected. It is able to reach a max brightness of 1000 nits, so if you're outside, you shouldn't have a problem at all. But just in terms of like my uses of like watching videos on YouTube and everything, I think it does a really good job of representing the colors right here. And the displays from like OnePlus, Oppo, and RealMe, which are companies that are associated together, I've always been a huge fan of the balance that they've found in their screens. One thing that I also noticed is that even though the phone is relatively thin, the camera bump is actually really small as well. So if you go ahead and place it on a table, the phone itself actually doesn't rock, and it has like a nice soft finish with the leather that all just comes together and doesn't feel like it's like too delicate or anything, but is a very durable material overall. So when it comes to some of the specs, of course we've mentioned the fact that this phone has the flagship Snapdragon 888 processor, which is the top end at a phone that comes in at a price that I would say is closer to the mid-high end. And what's most impressive about it is that we've talked about the hardware, we talked about the display, and those are all elements that this phone has seemingly done a top-end job at for a very value price. And on the inside, it comes in options of 128 gigs of storage paired with 8 gigs of RAM, or also up to 12 gigs of RAM. But for Snapdragon 888 processor, you can pretty much throw any task that you want at it, and it is able to handle it through its 8-core CPU. It has the Android 11 operating system and RealMe UI 2.0, and I've got to say this is my first time using the RealMe UI, and generally speaking, I like that it is kept very simple, very beautiful. The interface also has some nice colors to it, and generally speaking, I don't really have any complaints in terms of any of the add-ons and the user experience of it overall. It was very smooth, and just with the simple software tied together with the fast refresh rate, this phone is essentially able to handle anything that you need to, and when it comes to gaming, it is powered by an Adreno 660 GPU, so any of the latest and greatest games on the smartphone that use up a lot of graphics capability paired with the cooling technology inside are able to give you a really good experience. So this phone also has 5G built in, and pretty much every phone from the Android world in 2020 to 2021 has started adding this feature, and this was able to give you the fastest speeds depending on where you live and whether there's 5G compatibility. So we'll actually switch in between them to save battery life, which is able to make it 30% more efficient, because a lot of times you might be in an area where the 5G speeds or connectivity is not any better than 4G, and you don't really need to have 5G enabled on the phone at all times because it is going to be more power consuming. What is also nice is that there's also Wi-Fi 6 support. So for example, in the office with a Wi-Fi 6 router, we're able to get the fastest speed possible, and it will actually also utilize 5G and Wi-Fi 6 at the same time just to give you the best speed possible. And this isn't a new feature by any means. There's a lot of phones that are able to automatically use data and Wi-Fi and switch between them to give you the fastest loading times, but it's still a good feature to have. As for the battery life, it has a 4500 milliamp hour one that is built in, which should be able to last you through an entire day. With the great specs of the Snapdragon 888, as well as the display being AMOLED and also having a fast refresh rate and 5G compatibility, this phone is one where you might think the battery life won't be that good, but I could probably say you'll get around a full day of use, but not necessarily into the second day. One thing that it doesn't have though is wireless charging, but they have really focused on the fast charging side of things, and included in the box is a 65 watt fast charger, as you can see right here, and it is the Super Dart charger, and that's able to get you 100% of charge in just 35 minutes, which I would say is almost more impressive than needing wireless charging. This charger though is like a pretty average size. It isn't necessarily small or anything, but it's 65 watts, it is super powerful, and being able to charge your phone that fast is great. But they actually do also make a Super Dart portable one that is just so small, and this is actually able to charge your phone at up to 50 watts in speed. So you're still able to get a full charge on your phone in a really fast time, and as you can see, the size of this is just insane. It is pretty much the same thickness of the phone, maybe a little bit more, but the prong itself also just plugs right in, and the cord just comes straight out the bottom. So that is a nice accessory if you're traveling and don't necessarily want to bring everything with you. It just helps you reduce your pack by like that much more. So when it comes to the camera tech inside, it is a Sony IMX682 sensor that is 64 megapixels. And even though you can take photos in 64 megapixel, it is usually running in a downsample mode to reduce your file sizes and in a lot of cases improve the performance. So here's a look at some of the photos taken on the main sensor. So the first thing you're going to notice with the camera is that it is very vibrant and sharp. And with a sensor of the size and the ability to shoot in 64 megapixels, you're really going to like the images that are going to come out with the landscape side of things. And especially with lighting like this, which is of course ideal scenarios, you can see that the general dynamic range does have like a nice color pop to it, but it also does do a good job in terms of tapering down the highlights when it gets to the clipping point. The wide-angle camera was able to capture a lot with minimal distortion, and I did also notice the fact that between the ultra-wide camera and the standard main camera, it was able to do a good job in color consistency and also exposure. I would say for the price point of this smartphone, you do get a really powerful camera set, with the main one being a very good camera, the ultra-wide doing a relatively good job, but the macro one is one where I feel like at 2 megapixels is not really going to give you an image that you're going to use a lot. The video recording in 4K was once again like pretty sharpened, and I would almost say it's a little bit too sharpened, but the color vibrance and dynamic range once again was some features that really stood out. Within the smartphone app though, there is a lot of different modes, including 64 megapixel full resolution, super night mode, panoramic, expert mode for manual settings. You could do like time lapses, portrait mode, HDR, ultra wide, ultra macro, scene recognition, and just a ton of different options. But generally speaking, I would say the super night mode is a very handy one to check out, as well as the expert mode. On the multimedia side of things, there is a dual speaker setup, including one on the front here and one on the bottom, which is able to give you a pretty good stereo experience if you're holding it out in front of you. Definitely not like the loudest option out there, but in terms of general sound quality and the positioning, which is the most important, it does a pretty good job. In terms of an in-display fingerprint sensor, it is something that I feel like more phones should definitely use, because with the tech nowadays and the fact that it's been tested for the past couple years and has improved significantly, as you can see here, it is able to work very well and really give space for a display to take up the entire front of the phone. Another accessory that RealMe also sent over that kind of goes along with their whole collection is the RealMe Earbuds 2. And this right here is at the size of like an Apple AirPod. It is relatively portable, as you can see right here. But what's great about it is that it actually does have active noise cancellation built in. They're just like very simple rods. They come in a few different colors. And this right here is like an all black model that I think does look pretty sleek, but the case could definitely scratch over time. But it is also very portable, and paired with like the charger, you can actually just take this in your pocket anywhere. But some of the great features that it has is a 10mm hi-fi driver, so the sound quality has actually been pretty decent. But another feature that I also noticed that I haven't seen any other earbud mention in the past is 88 milliseconds super low latency. So if you want to use this for like gaming or anything, then this won't affect your gameplay. And I feel like that is just something that is often neglected. And one of the biggest issues with like all wireless earbuds is that there is a little bit of latency. So for example, the ones that I currently use, the AirPods with the Apple computer, it just has like a bit of a lag when it comes to video editing, making it pretty much unusable. So that is a great feature that I've considered here, but I would say if you want to avoid any scratches on the case, maybe go with the white model. So overall, what are my impressions of the RealMe GT 5G smartphone? I feel like for the price point, it has a lot of the great features that you would expect out of a great Android phone in 2021. It has a top-end processor, it has different options for storage and RAM, up to 12 gigabytes of RAM, and you also have the cooling technology, which allows you to really get the maximum performance out of the CPU and GPU, which is already top-end. In addition to that, you also have a great design. I think like the vegan leather finish is really great looking, and it feels nice in the hand as well. It is a pretty like comfortable size to be able to hold. The display is probably my favorite set of characteristics when it comes to the color, the sharpness, and everything like as a ratio. And 120 Hz refresh rate in the display is also a very important feature to have in 2021 that not all companies have done yet. I also feel like the software interface is quite usable and it's easy to customize, the visuals look good. On the camera side of things, the main camera looks pretty good, but the secondary and the third camera is okay, but definitely a bit distant from the other ones. But for a smartphone of this price with all the features that it packs, it is very common to see a good main camera and the other ones maybe lagging behind a little bit, but still able to get the job done if you really want to use them. I know it is missing wireless charging, but honestly, with all the great fast charging technology and what RealMe has done here with the 65 watt and being able to charge your phone to 100% in 35 minutes, I'm honestly someone who would rather plug my phone in and have it charge quickly as opposed to slowly charging it wirelessly overnight, just because it takes many more hours in a lot of cases. So I don't really find that as like a huge issue. And I also really like the fact that they have a compact version in a 50 watt form for portable use. So yeah, in terms of charging and battery, it actually does a really good job. And I think all in all, for its price, it is a phone that you should definitely check out. And I'm gonna drop a link down below. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.